So even though the ideas of the Buddha are not central to the prompt, they really kind of provide a pivot point, a fulcrum between the Vedic civilization and the Mayurans that come after them. So let's think about this in context, right? And by context, I mean what's going on in the world of the Buddha. We're talking about 6th, 5th century BC, the 4 and 500s BC. Vedic society has covered most of northern India by this point. There are lots of different independent societies that are governed by either kings or oligarchs. There are tons of people at the bottom of the totem pole, right? Those lower castes that have been further and further subdivided, and we talked about these in the lecture. So for the vast majority of people, life is going to stink. It's going to be hard. And that doesn't really mesh with all these ideas in the Rig Veda or in the Mahabharata, that if kings and prayer and sacrifice and right living can get people on track, then the world's going to be a better place. So in this context, lots of different people kind of start rebelling from the established norms, and they start kind of living on the fringes of society. And I showed you there was a couple of different folks who are examples of this, but the most paradigmatic, the best example is Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. And the son of a Raja, he decides that he's in a pretty privileged position, but life is really horrible for lots of folks. So he decides to leave his society, go around and kind of contemplate what's going on. And the conclusions he comes to, that he simplifies in the Four Noble Truths, are pretty straightforward, and think about why they would be appealing to lots of people. Right? First one is basically life sucks. Life is hard. It's tough. It's brutal. It's miserable. Second of those is, if life sucks, it sucks for a reason. What is the origin of that awfulness? What is the origin of pain and suffering? Well, here we can see a link to the ideas that come before it from the Vedic civilization, right? Suffering is caused by desire. People looking out for themselves. People not trying to take care of everyone else. And if you look closely, this might be him pointing fingers at folks like Brahmin priests and Rajas who are enriching themselves at the expense of everyone else. Suffering causes desire. Other way around, desire causes suffering. So what do you do from there? How do you get away from that? Well, the way that the Buddha himself comes up with this, or what he says in this point, is that really, the only way to get rid of suffering is to get rid of desire. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Life sucks. The reason it sucks is because people have desires. How do you get rid of suckiness? Get rid of desire. That gets you to Fourth Noble Truth. How do you do it? Well, let me teach you in this eightfold path. Let me give you 8 basic ways to behave to get rid of suffering. So think again about how this would be appealing to everyone. The notion that everyone's kind of equal, they're all part of the single cosmic being, and that if everybody gets on board with this, if they renounce desire, and if everybody goes back to kind of that ideal early state where everyone looks out for everyone and nobody's looking out for themselves and they don't have desire, the world will be a better place. Also, if you do that, you can eventually get born up higher and higher in the reincarnation kind of totem pole, and eventually reach oneness, nirvana, with Atman, with the universal being, and completely get rid of suffering altogether.